So it's June 2019. I've been getting really good at going online looking for gigs, and sure enough, found another one. This show, Disenchanted, the owner of a professional theater group in San Jose, made a posting looking for a drummer. So I replied, and again, she and I just exchanged some messages, and I told her my experience, my training, and got the gig. So yeah, these online postings are great. And so, again, I had never heard of the show, and I never even heard of this theater group because it's in San Jose. And at this point anyway, I didn't go to San Jose much. Most of the shows were like in the East Bay or San Francisco that I had gone to. So it was cool. I mean, San Jose is one of the three big cities here in the Bay Area. There's San Francisco, there's Oakland, and there's San Jose. I guess Berkeley, so four. So we'll say Berkeley too. But anyway, San Jose is probably the second largest, if not the largest in terms of population. Anyway, so I thought, wow, okay, a professional theater group. I think the majority of the actors and the staff or the crew, I think they're all union members. There's a union called the Actors Equity Association, I think AEA, known as Equity. And so most of the actors were in Equity. I believe the stage manager and the director, music director as well, as are the owners of this production company. So it was really cool. This is professional stuff. I mean, it's not like, the downtown San Francisco massive hits, but still they're doing a professional grade, professional quality show. The theater, they renovated themselves, so it's their own theater. They run it, operate it, and it's beautiful. The theater was just really, really nice. Modern, contemporary, kind of like 60s chic, kind of like 60s style, and really cool. So very hip, lots of blues, and I love blues. But yeah, so I'm thinking, wow, this is great. So another new experience for me, just to see what the next level up as far as professional productions go. So before I know it, I get an email from the conductor, the music leader. So the music director was somebody else, but the pianist was kind of the band leader. So it's just a three-piece band, bass, drums, and piano. And the pianist led the music and gave us cues and kind of chose the tempos and stuff like that. So I get an email from him, and we're talking about things and getting schedules together, and he sends me the music, and I start looking it over, and it looks very standard, with the one exception, because this is kind of if this were in New York, this would be like an off-Broadway type of show, contemporary, and so the quality of the materials, like the music book, it was a little bit lower, I could tell. And so some of the drums, I mean, it was still professional quality. It's not like it was handwritten or anything, but some of the drums, like the notes didn't align with each other. Usually if you hit two things at the same time on the staff, they align. So it's kind of like a visual representation of what you're playing. In this case, they didn't align. So like a snare drum and the bass drum, which were supposed to be hitting at the same time, were like off in the music. And so it was kind of, I'd never seen that before. I've been playing for a long time, been reading music for a long time, and I've never seen that. So whatever, it's just one of those things. You deal with it like anything. And it's only in the beginning that it's an issue. The first couple of rehearsals, I'm just kind of struggling. But after you get to know the music more and more, you're actually not even looking at the music so much. you know what's going on. You've kind of memorized it. The music becomes kind of a reference point. But in the beginning, it's just a little weird to look at these things that don't line up, and it's just like, a lot of things are going through my brain enough as it is. We, again, in this show, like all the others, we had 2 rehearsals and then 1 dress rehearsal, and then bam. you know? So, you're cramming. You're trying to get all this stuff done as quickly as possible. You don't need things not lining up. It's just another challenge you just really don't need. But whatever, it was there, so I had to get through it. Okay, so another couple of interesting challenges with this show is usually in a theater production that I've been involved with anyway, there's a primary drummer, and ideally, or all musicians, there's a primary, and that musician ideally is there for all the rehearsals and all the performances. But, sometimes that doesn't work out that way. So this theater group does have a primary drummer, but he had a lot of conflicts, and so that's why they called me in. So I wasn't really a sub. A substitute comes in just to play 1 or 2 nights or whatever. I was going to play half, so it was a 50-50 split. So I'd never done that before, and I was okay with it. It turns out the other drummer wanted to take like the weeknights anyway, so I'm just like, okay, great. Yeah, I ended up taking the weekends, which works better for me anyway. So it worked out. There were some challenges though. So, in musical theater, like you'll see in all of my other videos, you're constantly changing stuff. You're cutting music, you're adding things, you're writing down cues. In this performance, there's a lot of interaction between the band and the actors, and a lot of cues that I have to look for. So those things are changing, and since there's 2 of us, 2 drummers, we had to communicate with each other, all of the changes. And so that was a challenge. We managed it, but, sometimes, he would forget to tell me something, and I'm up there like, the night before starting at a dress rehearsal, and I'm waiting for something and I don't see it, and then they're expecting me to do a cue and they didn't get it, and they're just like looking at me, and I'm just so it never feels good to in their mind I made a mistake. In my mind it's like, how can somebody's got to frickin' tell me about this. If they want me to do it a certain way, I just have to be told. It seems basic. But, it's not the actor's problem. So anyway, it's kind of one of those things. We worked through it, and got all those things worked out. So, opening night, we nailed it. So, but that was just one of the kind of unique challenges. And so in addition to the drummers being split, the bass player, there were like 3 different bass players. So, that's kind of something different, something I'm not used to also. Just with all the rotations, even the pianist, there were 2 different band leaders. So with all the rotation, of the musicians in such a small combo, I'm not used to that. Usually a small combo, you get really... you get tight with the 3 people, and you get to know each other's musical personalities and strengths and weaknesses and things like that. It's like any sort of group, you get to know the people, and you get to know how to interact with them, essentially. And so that's how it is with music too. You get to know them musically. So that was kind of difficult to do when everybody's like switching out all over the place, but again, we work through it, and that's why the music is written on paper. So it's designed for that, so anybody can come in and play it. Okay, so after our couple rehearsals, it's time to go into the theater, and you can see this is really a great production, beautiful theater, and there's the band, far stage right. So it was kind of cool. It's like, so the band in this production interacted with the actors on the stage. So we weren't like part of the plot or the story, But, they acknowledged us. So it's not like we were, invisible. They would acknowledge us. Sometimes to open up a song, they'd say, "Okay, band, let's do this. 1, 2, 3." So they acknowledged we were there, and we acknowledged them too. And if they made a funny joke, we would laugh. So it's like the old, again, like kind of like the '60s, where the band is just kind of there doing their thing, but they're just also watching, and there's interaction, and it's kind of different, unique. So they would make funny jokes and we would laugh and, smile and wink. And sometimes they'd make, like say, "Hey, handsome." And, we it's like, "Hey," that kind of thing. It was cool because so the story is Disenchanted. It's about Disney princesses, but it's a spoof. It's more like, what if, kind of like modern day, you know, trials and tribulations of a modern day woman, but set to like Disney princess characters. So it's really funny. I'm not good at explaining it, and you should see it for yourself. But it's hilarious. The audience loved it. A lot of really funny jokes. But anyway, so the band's way over there, and so we didn't have much space. So that's the point I'm getting to. So the drummer, because he was the main drummer, he brought the equipment. And so I'm just like, cool. The thing about it, he was younger than me. And, generally speaking, when you're younger, you keep up to date with like new stuff. Just as you get older, you just have more things going on, more responsibilities, and you're not in tune with new products and what's cool and all that trends and whatever. So he had these drums like I've never seen before. They were way smaller than typical drums, and they fit in just a really nice compact space, whereas mine would have taken up quite a bit more space. And also his cymbals, they were perforated, like they had holes all through them. A typical cymbal is just like a piece of brass, and you hit it and it makes a sound and it rings. These were, I think, made of a different metal. I think it was titanium or something, or aluminum. I'm not sure, but it had a whole bunch of holes in them, and they're called low volume cymbals. And I'd never heard of these before either. And so the cool thing is you hit them like you normally would, but they don't ring out as much. And so it keeps the volume down. And that was key to this show, because we're on the stage. It's not a tiny theater, but it's not huge either. And so we wanted to control the stage volume. So, that drummer introduced me to these new things, and it's like, cool. And so that kind of got me interested, and I looked up the new, I went on to like Guitar Center or whatever, and just like checked out all these new things that I wasn't aware of. And I had no idea. I mean, I thought drums were drums. What are they going to do? Sure enough, so they thought of something. And then also he brought orchestra bells, which is cool. So there are some orchestra bells in this piece, and so he actually had some, and he brought them. Funny thing is, he doesn't even know how to play them, but I did, so I'm like, cool, So that was interesting, and and keeping in line, still along with equipment. All my other shows, I would buy a little piece of percussion. So on this one, I noticed in the music, there were wind chimes, like the sound of like fairy dust, like in Princess Land. You go like this and it gives a little tinkle sound. It's actually called a mark tree. And it's not really used in orchestral music, but it is in kind of theater. It's kind of a newer like sound effect kind of thing. But it was, actually prevalent in this show because, they're princesses and they have wands and stuff, and you do the little sound that goes with that. So I thought, oh, perfect. So I'll get one of those. And so I got one, but it turns out my buddy, the other drummer, actually had one too. And so turns out I didn't get to use it, and it was a total waste, but I figured, hey, I'll be doing a lot more musicals in the future, and almost all of them, even Rock of Ages had these damn this sound effect, So I bought it. It wasn't that expensive. Now I have it. So what the hell? So another cool thing. So this show has some sound effects too, which is typical of the newer shows. I think this show is from like 2006 or something, and has gone over revisions. But all the newer shows, they have sound effects. They want to be, kind of like movies almost, and everybody kind of expects a certain level of just things present. In fact, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, sorry. But like, I was in Bonnie and Clyde, the musical, and they had like all sorts of like projectors on the stage, projecting scenery or like movie clips, just so modern theater has a lot of that stuff. And if you go to like something like Harry Potter, which is playing right now, I mean, they have all sorts of crazy special effects. So they try to keep up with the times, and people are used to a certain level of special effects. And so anyway, so this show had a lot of sound effects. There wasn't all that visual stuff, but plenty of sound effects. And so sometimes the person working the sound, like the soundboard and the equipment, will handle those. They have a way to do it. I guess they push buttons. I'm not totally sure, but in this case, they gave the job to the drummer. So this drummer actually had a little sample pad. So, that's also something that I had never seen before or used. And there it was. So this guy introduced me to all this cool new stuff. I'm the guy that knows how to play the old stuff, like the orchestra bells. But he had this sample pad, and so it's kind of like the octapad that I described in my previous video, where it's an electric thing, very thin and compact, and it has, in this case, there are 9 different pads you can hit. And when you hit each pad, it makes a different sound. In this case, there were sound effects. Like there's one time where the actress drops her shoe. Spoiler alert. She drops her shoe in the well, and we had a sound effect that went pew, and then it makes a splash at the bottom of the well. So she would hold it up, and I had to be in line of sight for that. And sometimes the actors would block, and I'm just like having to look around them. We worked around that also. So these are the things you don't think about, but they're real life challenges. There's 4 actresses standing here on stage, the 5th one over here, and I have to watch while she drops something, and I'm over here. So I need to be able to see, and if I can't, it doesn't work. So we arranged it. Okay, the actresses all had to make sure they were, downstage. So anyway, so back to the sound effects. So, she would go like this, and I'm ready, and she would release it, and I would hit the pad, and it would make the sound. So there were a few other different sound effects, and so this guy programmed it and everything, and he gave me a cheat sheet on how to set it up every night, to turn it on and, configure it and everything. But it just opened my eyes again to sound effects and what's capable and what's expected of the drummer. And the cool thing about this, so it can also play percussion instruments like the octapad. You can do shakers, and in this case we did a vibra slap sound, and so it was really cool. Now there is a difference between the octapad and this. This specific one that he had was not Roland like the octapad. This was a Yamaha DTX sample pad. So different brand, same thing, and Roland actually has a sample pad also. So it can do samples, which are like sound effects, and then it can also do actual instruments too. So very versatile and really cool. And the cool thing about samples is you can make them. So I can do whatever I want. I can just, if I have a microphone and something to record, I can just go record that, and it puts it onto a file, a digital file on your recorder. You take that file, load it into the sample pad, and you set it up so that when you hit a pad, it just goes, it's really cool. I mean, you can really do anything that you can record, any sound you can record with a microphone, or any sound you can generate electronically with a synthesizer or whatever. God knows what. Any way you can generate a sound and have a digital file of that sound, you can upload it into this thing, hit a drumstick, and that sound goes off. And in fact, you can, it doesn't have to be just a sound. It can be an entire song. So a lot of bands do that. They're called backing tracks, where you just push a button and like the guitar plays an entire song. Then professional, pop stars do it all the time. It's just a way that modern music is done now. So anyway, so there it was. This guy had one of these sample pads, and I knew how to operate it, and I knew how to, he actually put on each pad, a sticky note that said like, shoe drop or water splash. So it was easy to know which one to hit at which time. And I would write on the book, the sheet music, like where each one was and which sound effect to make and stuff. So it was cool, just another aspect of musical theater that was new to me. And, I'm getting more experience with this stuff, and it's getting exciting. While I might not seek out the new tech like somebody younger might, I was still getting really into it, and I was enjoying it, and it kind of got my juices flowing. It made me remember what that was like to look at all the new technology and what trends are and stuff. And so I'm getting there. So as far as electronics, no electric drums again. But we did have this sample pad, and actually electric drums would have been perfect for this show. Maybe this guy didn't have any, I'm not sure. But knowing what I know about electric drums as I do now, today in 2021, this was the ideal place for using them. It's totally a missed opportunity. But anyway, my juices are flowing, and in the coming videos, I think in July of this year, so just 1 month past this, I do finally get my first electric drum kit, and the floodgates open after that. But for now, this is where we're at. First time with a sample pad, and it was really cool. Okay, so with all of the new technology and new equipment and various musicians and rehearsals and everything, like any show, we do our month-long run. This show was very well attended, and the audience loved it. I mean, it was hilarious. It really, really was funny. And there was a lot of improvising. I have to say, the actresses, their skills with improv was just very impressive. It was so good. And I know how hard that is. And they were just, every night, it was just on. And it was just really impressive. And it was satisfying, too. Because sometimes when there's improvisation, or like in this case, audience participation, somebody would yell something from the audience, and you have to respond. And if you don't kind of do it in the right way or in a humorous way, it can really take away from the whole show and bring you out of the show and remind you that they're just people on stage with feelings that might get hurt. But they didn't do that. They stayed in character, and if somebody heckled or and it wasn't usually a heckle, but sometimes people would say stuff and they would stay in character and in a funny way and respond. And so it was really fantastic. So kudos to them. They did a great job. The whole run went really well. Nothing but great things to say about this show. And then we had a dinner at the last show. We had a very nice dinner at a restaurant, and finally got to chat with some of the actresses, staff, and crew, because didn't really get much of a chance to do that on this run. It was very very well organized, very professional. The musicians had a little green room that we needed to stay in. At a certain time we had to be there, and then we at a certain time we get on the stage, and there was a lobby area, and so everything was just very well organized, and so it was great. But as a result, there wasn't much of a backstage to like hang out and get to know people like with that I've done with some of the other shows, which is fine. But anyway, so at this closing dinner, I finally got to chat with them for a little bit, and again, as impressive as they were on stage, they're just people. Again, just like with the Tay Diggs thing, he's just a guy, and you just hang out and you chat about stuff, over dinner, and it was great. Again, it's fun to just to relate to people as just other people. So I enjoy that anyway. So great show, Disenchanted. If you ever get a chance to see that show, if it ever plays around again, I definitely recommend it. It's one of the smaller kind of independent, I guess you would call it an indie musical, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it sure is. Look it up. If it's playing in your area, go check it out. Hilarious, lots of laughs. I'm sure you'll love it.